Today, on a very special episode of the Fearfic Podcast, the gang discusses if creepypasta was always that bad, a topic that's been contentious for a while. They then read a highly suggested story about a creepy barroom conversation written way back in 2012, when creepypasta was on the rise as a genre, and see if it falls apart like so many creepypastas do on a second reading at an older age.
Welcome to the Fearfic Podcast. Fearfic is the term for short horror fiction, mostly posted on the web. It includes any and all related subgenres. Join three assholes talking basement goo Slimebeast, inebriated interstellar traveler Abysmii, and irritable ghostly man-horde Dead Palette, as they read all stories horror and internet-related, paragraph by paragraph, and bullshit while they do it. From adolescent revenge fantasies to subtle postmodern narratives about real-life events and everything in between, they read it and critique. You better believe it. Kick it to the cold open, white boy.
So was creepypasta always that bad?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like asking, revisiting old anime. Yes, there's the classics you saw, like Cowboy Bebop, but
Transformers.
there's also, like,
Garfield.
other bad anime from long ago. The thing is that everything is terrible except for, was it Sturgeon's Law? 10% of everything's decent, the rest of it's bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that that's kind of the core of the conversation. But I think a lot of people right now, I've seen a number of YouTubers and people commenting that are, just coming of age, just turning like 18, 19 and starting to formulate their adult brain.
Right.
And they keep saying like, well, I'm going back to creepypasta, and this stuff used to creep me out, and now it doesn't anymore. So what's the deal with that? Is it because I got old, or is it because it was all garbage all along?
I just turned 18, and not only is creepypasta no longer interesting to me, but somehow I'm no longer interesting to creepypasta narrators. I don't understand it.
The people in the community just don't take the same interest in me that they used to.
Yeah.
So what I would say is that, one, you're maturing and your tastes are maturing, and that means that certain things aren't going to be as interesting. But at the same time, you are just like missing the fact that your mind is going to do a lot of the work when you're younger. You're easier to scare. But I think the thing that's really interesting about creepypasta isn't scaring someone. It's the unnerving aspect, the weird thing that like really sits with you. That's why Slender Man is so good, because it's a concept that sits with you. It's like, okay, you're in the woods, there's a dude in a suit with no face. That's going to stick with you. It's not so much that there's like a visceral fear. It's like, ooh, that's weird. That's not correct. That there's something wrong about that. So it's that uncanny aspect that I think is interesting. And a lot of stories have that in some way or another. But when you're younger, you're going to overlook all of like the logic flaws of a story, and you're only going to get the creepy parts. So like, was creepypasta always bad? I don't think so. I think 90% of everything is shit, and you're just missing. You're just now realizing that a lot of stuff is shit.
Creepypasta, as opposed to, like, let's say Goosebumps, which probably scared people when they were kids. But no one goes, was Goosebumps always not scary because I'm not a stupid baby anymore? Well, no, it's for children. But creepypasta was predicated on, even if it wasn't outright stated, it was, is this true? This is randomly appearing on the internet, and it's in a format that is so nebulous that, you almost don't even bother to investigate. And if you do, you can't find much because it's just anonymously posted. That was the really big draw for everyone, too. Oh my god. This is just a green text post. Is this actually true? It could be. It wasn't, I read this in a book.
Everybody has that idea of, like, you look at music. Everybody's like, the music from my youth was the best. The music from this period, from that period, from this decade, the best music, best, just ever. They had this song, and this other song, all great music. But then if you listen to...
like a bird.
Yeah, if you listen to a channel dedicated to that era, or a playlist dedicated to that era, and it has a lot of songs in rotation, you go, oh yeah, there was this song. Oh yeah, this one. Oh god, this one. Yeah, I remember this one. I never liked this one. It's just, you just remember the things you like. The other stuff, the other 90%, kind of just goes away. You know?
When your tastes are being molded when you're young, and I think it's very, nostalgia comes from, I was getting into music. Like, of course, I heard whatever was on the radio, but I was at this age when I actually started liking music, seeking out music, and forming my personality and my image around being a goth or like what have you. Like, that's a very influential time in your life. So you tend to just absorb everything as quickly as possible. And then when you've had some years,
thus kids have phases,
Yeah,
it's normal.
It's normal and to be expected, So after you become older, you refine and further define your tastes. But to go back to what Slimebeast was saying, it's interesting because people either go, the music from my childhood was great, or Jesus Christ, all the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, God, music was terrible when I was a kid. You get both, but you rarely have people going, yeah, some of it was good, some of it was bad, whatever. I still like Linkin Park, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you don't remember all the stuff you didn't like. You heard it once or twice and you turned it off. It just faded away into the past. But another thing is, too, people talk about, like, for example, like the Ninja Turtles cartoon. People are like, I was watching some episodes of Ninja Turtles, and that show was really fucking ass boring. And it's like, yeah, the thing is, when you're a kid, you're just picking up on the concepts, on the themes, on the iconography of it. You're like, holy shit, this episode has this character in it. I have the toy of him,
Mm-hmm.
It's like a delivery system for ideas and concepts, and for that period of time, it was all commercial and corporate. But it's the same type of thing with stories like Slenderman, Smile Dog, Sonic.exe, and so on and so forth, the whole variety of them. You can look back and you could say, I can't believe I was scared by the story, but really what you're picking up on, I think, is mostly it was a new, quote-unquote new, method of delivering these icons and these ideas and these concepts where you're like, you get to the twist ending, and you're like, holy shit, I'll always remember this twist ending, but then you read it later, and you're like, that story was a slog to get all the way to that twist ending.
That story was chock full of plagiarism. How did I not notice that before?
Or it's a story where you're going through it, and then there's a twist ending, and when you're younger, you're like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And then when you reread it, you're like, oh, there are hella plot holes here.
Yeah.
Oh, why are they doing that?
That
doesn't... Yeah, but just cycling through all the examples to discuss this, there was a big conversation as, people around my age, millennials, started to stop watching professional wrestling. There was like, oh man, professional wrestling got bad, and a bunch of people would respond and say, no, it was always bad. It's dumb soap operas for men. And the truth is, yeah, there is like a certain suspension of disbelief that goes away when you're not a kid anymore, because like, yeah, I know it's not real and I know it's scripted and blah, 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 but it's still emotionally investing in a way that a fictional, something else that's fictional doesn't get you. But no, in retrospect, people are looking back and they're like, no, that was like a dead time for the WWE. Like, they had no idea what they were doing. The writers were bad. It really was bad. They had like people, just, putting a bed in the middle of the ring and then fucking under the sheets. And that was supposed to be controversial. And it was like annoying, stupid. It was bad, and it wasn't about the wrestling. And now they're bringing back all of the stuff that people liked. And even though I'm not really interested in it anymore, it's like, no, there was just clearly a bad period. There was some crap out there. And that's the thing, is there's just there's Creepypasta is so many different things. A lot of it's going to be shit, and it's all very different. There's the twist endings, there's the icon pastas, there's, the screamers, which is kind of like fallen out of vogue. Like, there's everything. There's
gore
all kinds
pastas
of
that are just all gore.
Shocking things. Like, you don't get a whole lot of normal porn for normal people stories anymore. And when you do, they're very formulaic and no sleep related. But like, yeah, there was a lot of good stuff back then. There's a lot of bad stuff back then. And the same is true now. All of the horror stories being written now, there's absolute dog shit and there's really cool things.
Absolute dog shit.
I think there's this tendency of, when you quote unquote grow out of something, you have the knee-jerk reaction, or a lot of people do, to just
you think Santa's real?
Well, back in my like, you just dump all of it to say like, oh well, if some of it was bad, all of it was bad. Fuck it, none of it matters. But in certain things, in certain art forms, creepypasta included, there is still merit and value in a lot of the stories that do still hold up. Even if they don't scare you, even if, yes, there's plot holes, you can go back and remember, even maybe fondly, well, it did affect me because it does this well. And even for wrestling, for whatever, for Ninja Turtles, why did this appeal to me? Let's look at that, because that's going to be an enduring aspect of whatever franchise, and it's going to apply to everything that kids of these days are going to be introduced to for the same damn reason.
Kids of these days. I don't know if you can, this is a thing I think Creepypasta suffers from, like with new readers. People who aren't looking back and saying, I was there for the beginning, people who are just onboarding and stuff, who, may look back at it and say, yeah, this is all dumb and all trash. The thing is, you can't really, or you shouldn't, I guess, you shouldn't watch Jaws 2 through Jaws 8 or whatever, and then at the end go and watch Jaws, because it's gonna ruin it and you're gonna think it's shit. You can't watch the prequels and the sequels and then go back and watch the original Star Wars for the first time.
My God.
It becomes like, oh God, this story again. I've seen this a million times before. And oh, Darth Vader, what a shitty character, because he's, X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, it wasn't that in the beginning. Like creepypasta stories where you look back and you say, oh God, an icon killer, there's a million of those. It's like, yeah, but in 2011, there weren't a million of those. That's one of the first ones. You can't really, your experience has been tainted, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's imagine just watching Saw 7.
Yeah.
that would be an experience. I kind of want to find someone who's never seen a Saw movie and then just sit them down and have them watch like the 7th Saw movie and be like, what is happening?
What?
It's like watching all of the Saw movies, all the sequels, and then you watch the first one and you go, that's it? That was the whole, that was nothing. Nothing really happened. That's boring and stupid. He was dead in the middle of the floor. Who cares? That's nothing.
To your point about going back, if you look at Jeff the Killer, he was kind of like the original one. And I think, all of us were of an age where when we read that, we were like, that's a bad I don't think any of us ever enjoyed Jeff the Killer.
No.
We were all too old to enjoy that, because I think that is like child bait. That's completely designed for early middle schoolers who are being bullied.
Right.
Got it. We know that we're not the demographic. But then they come along with Tiki Toby, who is just like Mary Sue version of Jeff the Killer. And I just had a resentment. I didn't have an attachment to Jeff the Killer, but I really hated viscerally for some reason Tiki Toby before I even read the story, because it was just like, fuck you, you don't get to just redo Jeff the Killer, my dude. And I think in a certain way it kind of is like a more nuanced story, which is a stretch to say, but like but I would say it's the better story of the two. But now I just understand, none of this was for me, and I was too old for all of it.
Right.
And if anyone is, I'm just throwing this out there, narrating Jeff the Killer story or a Tiki Toby story as an adult, what are their motives? What are their motives? Could be clicks or other things.
One thing that you can say about Icon Pastas is they are still enduring. They still, to this day, and we're like, 10 years after Jeff the Killer first came out, they still...
I have bad news for you. It's more like 15 or 16.
Oh, whatever fucking
Dude,
year it is.
wait. Okay. Jeff the Killer release date. I don't know why I'm putting release date like this movie.
God.
Was it 2011?
Oh. No, the first thing that comes up is Jeff the Killer fan movie releasing on September 21st, 2021. Okay. Never mind. What was it, 2011 you said?
Oh god, it's 2008, yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, it's over 10 years.
Obama. Okay, listen. Obama was sworn in, and then Jeff the Killer was like,
coincidence? I think not.
Go to sleep, America.
Oh! God damn it.
No, nobody go on the Creepypasta wiki. I don't want any of you to know about that.
Malaya.
Not a conspiracy.
Malaya, I'm been telling you, your OC is shit. Stop posting it.
Stop taking Sasha out in the woods to get stabbed.
God damn it, no, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that about people with Secret Service protection. We've been over this.
Unfortunately, do oversee the icon pasta subreddit.
Well,
but like, there's still
unquote.
kids. Every new generation of middle schoolers get into icon pastas. Like, they have staying power for as much as I am not the demographic. People like them. And that, like, that shows at least some of the lasting power of creepypasta, even to the people who think, oh no, it was always bad. Well, no, clearly it has a pull.
There was a thread on the creepypasta subreddit a while back where someone was like, I don't like creepypastas today, modern creepypastas. And I was like thinking, yeah, I could see that, for a multitude of reasons, no sleepification, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Repetition, cliches, so on and so forth. So I clicked the thread and I read it, and the person says, back in the day when creepypastas were good, they had good titles, like Jeff the Killer. The name of a character that told you everything you need to know about what they do. And I was like, oh. They're talking about, like, Bob the Vengeancer and,
Well, I think I
Mitchell
remember
the
that
Mauler.
thread. And, like, they were just saying, I think it's really cute, you new icon pasta OC makers, but back in my day, blah, 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 this is how you make a real Jeff the Killer. Like, dude, shut up. What are you arguing here?
Somebody should write a story about someone who turns people into creepypasta icons and has that attitude. It's like, I'm gonna make a real OC, I'm gonna make a real character, and they're just dicing somebody up. Like, you're gonna have a hook hand, and you're gonna have...
Well, I do think that there is a potentiality of young people who are reading this stuff, discovering this stuff, not really exploring out as much as they could. They kind of want to latch onto those icon things, and even something that kind of has an upfront hook, like Candle Cove, where there are a lot of visuals associated with it, or something that's just been, very much so popularized by somebody else. But they're not going to necessarily explore into a lot of the more weird, abstract things that are just Hands by Unseen Wombat or something like that, where it's about, like, it's just about some boys doing some boy things, having a good old white boy summer.
Mm-hmm.
The Egg. You guys know The Egg?
Where it's about an egg?
Yeah, where it's about, how the universe is an egg and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So those kinds of things, they're going to be less interested in those. They want to latch on to those superhero kind of things, and there is that suspension of disbelief, and it is fun. It's really fun because they're kids and their parents aren't supervising them, and they're looking at something edgy and shocking that they're, isn't age appropriate. So
it's interesting. I guess preferences really have changed, and not just, like creepypasta for No Sleep or whatever, but more creepypasta in its infancy was often described as digital campfire tales.
Yeah.
Digital cancer, yeah.
Digital, well, no, it's definitely still is that. The idea of, here's a story, and it was weird. I found a laptop in like with a hard in my back pocket, and a nondescript external hard drive, and this is the fucked up shit I found on it, and that's it. Like a very simple premise, but for the digital age. Now, because the anonymity is gone, which isn't, a good or a bad thing, like, it just is.
It's both. It's a very good thing, and it's a very bad thing.
Exactly, so it cancels out. But, that's no longer the focus. It's not, I found this weird shit on the internet. It's, have you seen the latest No Sleep that has 5,000 upvotes this week? And so I think, to your point, Brandon, the kids aren't going to go for the more surreal, obtuse stuff, because that's just... The impetus isn't there. That's not what anyone wants to write. That's not what anyone wants to look for. Or if they do, they don't know that anyone wants to look for that.
Well, it's like I said, I think we had this discussion, a similar discussion before, where I said, if you look at the rise of creepypasta OCs, it's like inverse proportionally to like the decline of superheroes and comic books. Mm-hmm. It's just like, it's the new thing of, instead of, my superhero wears a green costume and he's powered by the moon and he throws moon discs. Instead of that, it's like, my character wears a green trench coat and he's comes out at night.
Throws moon discs.
Yeah, and he throws moon-shaped blades. So it's just like the horror equivalent of superhero schlock. With most of the icon pasta stuff.
It's
which is not surprising because Jeff is the Joker. So
sure, it's like Twilight Zone versus the CW. One's much more popular now for a very obvious reason.
Could you imagine the CW reboots Twilight Zone and they have like, we're going to get the first female Rod Serling, and you're like, well, wait a minute. Rod Serling's an actual person, but okay. He's dead and he died of cancer.
Time there was a female Rod Serling in television.
Well, I think the Twilight Zone is a perfect analogy because that was just a tossed bag of weird fiction. It didn't follow any rules. What are the rules of Creepypasta? They say that they're digital campfire stories, or they're supposed to be shocking and unnerving. But
DP, you're a tossed bag of weird fiction.
You're not. I mean, you're not incorrect, but I'm still offended.
Someone changed their Twitter handle.
Damn it.
Oh, God damn it. Okay, sure. I'll do that. I think, though, that taboo element does add some credibility to it because, let me just paint you a picture here. You're, a kid, you're young, you're reading stories online late at night, and you're not letting your parents know that you're reading something that's age inappropriate because it has blood and guts in it. And then you get genuinely scared and you don't have anyone to talk to. You can't tell your parents because, you were enjoying and consuming this thing that you're not supposed to. That's going to heighten up the fear, and then you're going to reread it, and it's just like, and then Jeff told them to go to sleep, and you're like, that's not scary.
Right.
Why don't you call the police? Or, it just kind of takes the punch out of it. And I think another element of it is just, creepypasta isn't porn, but it's kind of consumed in the same way, in that things are objectified. So it's like, I want to read a story about a stalker. I want to read a story about a monster that is outside of my house and I can't leave because there's just kind of like scenarios that are kind of like fetish thing of like, I want to put myself in this scary headspace in the same way that you would look at porn to get aroused.
I want to read about a MILF, but the M stands for monster. Yeah.
That's also that's kind of borderline between both of them.
It's basically No Sleep, or at least the top voted story.
Well,
creepy porn stars.
Yeah, I think Creepypasta has always had a element of disposability, especially, which got exponentially worse the more popular it became, the more people started writing, and then with the rise of No Sleep, it just became almost commodified and hard shoved into a formula. So now, that's why, one of the reasons why No Sleep titles are so explicit and flowing with information. This is what the story is about. If you like rule stories, read mine. It's about rules. Please read it. So nuance has been thrown to the wind.
Yeah. Yes.
Because that's what people want out of it. I see it all the time in the comments on the OOC subreddit of like, oh man, I'm so sick of these rule stories. Yeah, well, they work, and I look for rule stories, so I'm glad that the titles tell me what I'm reading.
I'm kind of...
It's your personal preference, but...
I'm kind of pissed about rule stories being a thing, because one of my favorite things to do in writing, and I've used it, sparingly, because if you do it all the time, it's not special. I love writing lists, and I love writing things in formats, professional formats and stuff, like a questionnaire, or... a few suggestions, the suggestion box things. I love doing that, and I kind of used it sparingly because I didn't want to be like, oh, fuck, another one of these things again. But now with the rules stories, it's like, well, I guess anything I write like that is almost basically a rules story, so.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I mean, in a sense, I think it really does come down to the reason that the rules stories are so obnoxious is because there isn't any adherence to the skeleton underneath it, to the structure of this is
the story
all
of a
going
girl.
to, this is the story of a girl, and at the core of it, we're going to go down all these rules that are going to slowly reveal what the story is doing. So to use your example, your masturbatory example of a few suggestions because you love mentioning your writing so much.
Nobody commiserate with me.
His own stories. I think that you're actually looking at a structure of okay, their thing is going wrong in this park. There's a story underneath this, and we're just going to slowly reveal it through the format. but there's not any actual reveal. It's just like, what is a weird rule? We'll do that. And then we'll do another weird rule. And then they don't have any coherence.
Yeah, I think since you were making fun of me for being masturbatory, in one of my books, which you can purchase on Amazon, wrote a story in the format of a theme park questionnaire, like, how was your trip type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as it goes along, it's like, who's your favorite mascot in the park? And it has, check boxes for each one, and one of them is Waffly the Waffle Boy. And, so on and so forth. It's a breakfast-themed theme park. But anyway, through the questions, it's like, how was your stay in your room? How was this? How was that? Did you hear anything in the vents? And, the question, do you hear anything in the vents? One of the answers is, was it Waffly the Waffle Boy? Different things like that where
Right.
by the end of it, you're like, oh, this questionnaire is about trying to find where Waffly the Waffle Boy is. They're sending it out to people, like, so, have you seen him around your house or anything, But, like you said, the rules things usually are like, don't put towels in the hamper, put them next to it. And you're like, oh, where's this towel thing leading? And it's fucking
It's
nowhere.
just inane.
Yeah.
It's almost a Holder series levels of, here's batshit crazy stuff. Isn't that batshit crazy? Yeah, but I would never do this. And I'm not at this weird rules mansion, so what do I care? Like, well, what is the pull exactly? And I have to ask, are lost episodes and haunted video games not just as formulaic and not just as broadcasted? They are, but I will take one of those over a rule story any day, and I don't know why that's my preference. Maybe because because
Comfort.
and lost
they also have
episodes
theming.
the theming, yeah, they're enjoyable and they're funny because they're all incredibly schlocky. But rule stories are just, okay, is that it? All right, cool. I didn't do this, and I'm not going to do this. So I do not feel threatened or engaged at all in any of these weird scenarios.
Rules pastas have been so widely used that and there's like no variation really, because it's like I worked as a lifeguard at a water park, and it's like, here are the rules, and the rules have nothing to do with the theme really. It's all the same story over and over, essentially, whereas with video games, it's like, okay, well, here's a Street Fighter one. At least we know it's going to be about Street Fighter. Here's one about Qbert. Okay, we know it's going to be about Qbert. It's not...
and it's never like... It's, hey, I got a haunted video game, and this is what happened. As opposed to... here's a typical day of my work at a weird place with rules. Oh no, we're going through it. Oh no, don't put the towels in the hamper. Put them next to it. Oh no. One's just so much more, I don't know, engaging of, hey, tell me a story. Don't tell me a scenario.
I put in the Mario cartridge, and I tried to make Mario walk right. Don't walk right, said the game. Okay, I walked Mario left and tried to jump. Don't jump, said the game. That would be a rules pasta for a haunted game. It's like, okay.
I got a weird copy of Mario 64 that has a bunch of rules. Here they are. That's excellent. No,
I got a weird copy of Nintendo Power, and here's what was in it.
If you actually look at some of the original Lost episode and, haunted game things like Been Drowned and Squidward Suicide and Suicide Mouse, there's like something, Dead Bart. Are any of those perfect? No, but all of them are really good. I wouldn't, opinions may vary, but I think that they're all, fun and serviceable because they all have a different idea to them. The core of them is different, of just like, hey, Disney is this weird place, and the circumstances behind this thing are weird, and that was the original. It's kind of like bland, but it's set off all of these other stories. And then you have Squidward Suicide, where it's just like, hey, there is a hidden conspiracy here, not to get too explicit, but like, then, Been Drowned. Oh, this is a used game, and the idea that the previous owner is imparting something onto it, whether it's supernatural or whatever, is a cool idea. That is why I think we take off with that. We were there for the start of that, and we're interested in those subjects at the beginning because there were good stories out of it,
Yeah.
And plus, as I say, you take away from it a general premise that is iconic. Squidward Suicide is, oh, that's the story where Squidward was, booed by the audience with hyper-realistic eyes, everybody. Wow, that's crazy, and, so on and so forth. Whereas a lot of stories that are just out there, in the huge flood of them, nobody really looks back and says, "Oh, you remember that, thing about, I don't know, what's a modern day cartoon? Is there one called OK KO or something like that?"
Loud House.
Loud House. Wow. Hey, there's that Loud House one where the family was all screaming and covered in blood, and then they shot themselves with shotguns. It's like you don't really have anything like that because it's no longer like an iconic experience, or like a concept that's new, or like, something that grabs your attention. It's all basically offering nothing different, I guess, from like the original forward.
Well, if you look at Squidward Suicide, it's actually about Squidward as a character at the core of it, and then it branches off into other things. Yeah. If you look at Suicide Mouse, it's like, oh, the stripper character is instead depressed. Okay, got it. If you look at Dead Bart, it's a show where it's about real life, but like all of these, it's so cartoony and, slice of life and just, sitcom kind of stuff, but it's like twisted, haha. Well, what if it was really twisted? What if, something actually bad happened?
What if there was no plot armor for one of the main characters?
Yes, exactly. It's actually taking these ideas and doing something with them, whereas the ones that are schlocky and dumb are just like, not actually playing with it. That's why we liked the Shrek story so much, because, it's taking an iconic phrase, about the onions having layers and turning it into, mutilation is a funny idea. You're actually playing with the media. The ones that aren't good are the ones that just don't do anything with it. They're at Loud House and, someone blows themselves up with a shot. It's like there's no purpose to that. It's not subverting anything. It's not doing anything.
The Shrek one could have easily been, Fiona was screaming as she was on fire, and then the television went to static. And then for 2.5 minutes it was black, and then Shrek's face was on it, and he was laughing and smiling, and I felt like he was looking right at me. And,
there's also something to be said for basing your story around popular media, and this stands in contrast to Slimebeast, your suggestion about, I'm a lifeguard. Like, everyone's watched SpongeBob or The Simpsons at some point. Everyone knows what that is. It is relatable and identifiable. I understand that the search and rescue story is very popular, but at the same time, like, not everyone can really relate to a lifeguard being, something's off about being a lifeguard. Is it? I mean, it's a serious job, and, you hope people don't die, but is anyone going to, like, the next day after reading that story, go to the beach and be like, oh, man, lifeguards are spooky?
Ooh.
No.
I would like to remind people that I wrote the original creepypasta about lifeguards, Tito Taster, so suck on that.
There you go.
Internet. That was my idea. And it is, well, it's not really a rules pasta, but it is a foreshadowing thing where you got to pay attention to what's happening. With all of that said, let's read a creepypasta posted to the Creepypasta Wikia that was posted in 2012, so it's either from that age or earlier, written by JR22.
J.R.R. Tolkien, 22, yes.
Yes.
J.K. Rowling, 22. Yeah.
Come on, let's hear some J.K. Rowling.
Jeff the Killer actually is...
Black.
I already did too many of the Willy Wiggler sketch. I can't think of anything new.
He is Obama. We've established this to coincide way too much.
That's all it is. Jeff the Killer is just Obama in whiteface.
Mm-hmm.
It was a giant distraction from the slow decline of our country.
You remember that picture of Obama with the face paint from Joker in Dark Knight?
Yeah.
When during the election in 2008 or around that time, somebody actually printed that out and put them all over fucking telephone poles in the city here. And it was like, oh, come on, dude, you're not cool.
You're not convincing it.
Not edgy. You just found a meme and you printed it out, whatever.
So JR22 has written A Strange Night in the City of Angels, and this is posted to recommended reading. Ooh. And I have not read this story. Have you gentlemen read this story?
No.
A Strange Night in the City of Angels by JR22. The war had been over for about 3 months. For me, that meant trading the pot-marked and blood-stained field of France for the no less unsanitary streets of Los Angeles.
Pockmarked?
Poxmarked?
Pockmarked.
I would imagine.
Potholes, potmarked, I don't know.
I was fortunate enough to have been on sick leave during the deployment of my company to Japan on account of a shrapnel wound courtesy of the Panzer Division I came across a few miles away from Berlin.
Invest in shrapnel coin now. The new digital currency.
Adore my battle scars.
You know, that could be a way to do that instead of checking if other people have coins to process blah, 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 all that stuff. Just mint a new coin every time someone gets killed by a landmine planted post-World War II.
Talk about mining Bitcoin. Yeah, that's right.
Am I not on to something? I mean, we're never going to get rid of those mines. They're buried. We don't know where they are.
Yeah.
So little kids are going to keep finding them and blowing up. I'm just saying that this is a sustainable form of currency.
Yeah. Thanks, Princess Diana. You really solved that problem.
What up? As it was.
One of her things was trying to get landmines removed. Okay, anyways, again.
Yeah, cool.
Instead, she
Thanks
decided
for that trip
to
down
die.
memory lane for fucking Princess Diana.
Hey, like and subscribe for Princess Diana's death.
Can we get
damn
an
it,
F
no.
in the chat for Princess Diana?
Can we get it?
Fuck. Did you know they were going to bring back Princess Diana in Marvel Comics as a mutant? She faked her death.
Power.
Don't you think it's time for a male Princess Diana?
Yeah. Wait, no.
Isn't that Prince Harry?
That's a step backward in time. No, Prince Harry is definitely not a male Princess Diana.
As it was, by the time I was healthy enough to fight again, the whole mess was over and I got shipped back. My brother had passed away during my time abroad whilst in the throes of a bar brawl with some other draft dodgers, or so I'd been told via telegram. The reality was he died in
The
a
app Telegram?
My parents were as disappointed as ever with their progeny, a medical school dropout and a dead layabout branded a traitor by the authorities.
Okay. As such, the only thing to greet me off the boat was the prospect of trying to find a job that might accept invalidated GIs. Invalidated GIs, okay, I read that correctly, as prospective employees. I ended up tending bar at a dead-end joint somewhere near Chinatown. The place was a dive of the sort that made Normandy look like a palatable place to drink. Okay, the salt water as you charge up the beach? But the owner had a soft spot for returning army hacks, and paid comparatively well as a result. By the time those 3 months had crawled past, I'd settled into life at home relatively well, and I even had a steady string of dates going on with a local broad I knew back before getting dragged into the war.
I am immersed in this so far. There's a few spelling mistakes and everything, which is kind of to be expected in this era of creepypasta, but I think that it's nothing about it jumps out at me as like, this is creepypasta. This just feels like I'm being put into a short story, potentially a horror story.
This is a historical fiction.
Double draw Brandon as Jack Skellington and have him walking around saying, "This is creepypasta, this is creepypasta."
I remember, I want to say like around 2015 or something, especially on the wiki, there was just a rash of historical creepypastas.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but they became... Everyone was like, I'm done writing
Dog
about
tags.
modern day stuff. Let's write about fucking war, man.
Listen.
Dog tags. Dog tags did it. The story Dog Tags, I think, was the thing that kicked off that trend. This is not new. It's just one person thinks of an idea and then it mimetically gets spread around without understanding the original idea. And like Dog Tags, I wouldn't say is like a great story, but like if I'm remembering correct, the idea is like there's something funky going on with dog tags, but what everyone took away is like war is hell, and it's like, you haven't been there. Probably best to not write about it.
Listen,
not saying you can't, but
it's best not to look into why all of these people on Discord are really, really into World War II. Just don't look into it. Don't question it. Just chalk it up to morbid curiosity.
He came at me with a hyper-realistic Luger in his hyper-realistic Nazi uniform.
His mustache was bleeding.
the night still got to me, though. Sometimes, not all the time, I'd wake up drenched in more sweat than I had even before trying to sleep with the cuff of an lahit.
Lahit? Lahit is getting to me.
I'm not the only one who's drunk, damn.
LA heat, sweating my meat. That's it. That's the only one we're doing.
We're done.
Yeah,
we're
that's
done
the
with
one
that.
we get per episode.
That's the one. Okay. I'd wake up drenched in more sweat than was normal, even for trying to sleep within the clutches of typical LA heat. The damnedest thing that was that I couldn't remember why I had woken up once I found myself fully conscious. All I knew was that it wasn't about to stop simply on account of me wanting it to. So I started to work the long night shifts at the bar. I figured that would make something of the time that my head was forcing me to remain awake through.
Mm-hmm.
This is all just, hey, here's my situation, setting up my motivations for what I'm doing. It's all logical so far. Nothing supernatural has happened. I think that this is doing a nice job. It's not immediately jumping out at us and saying there was a, tank demon that chased me through my dreams.
Yeah.
It's taking its time to build up. I like it.
You really are making me regret using my one cum reference when you say tank demon, because that's like...
Don't do it. Don't complete that.
So, Abysmii, as usual, I'm going to circumvent you and take the next paragraph here. This is good so far. By the way, my name is Finn, and I have a dog named Jake. When I would fall asleep, it was an adventurous time. Oh, okay. It's a theory pasta.
It's like the cartoon on Cartoon Network, Danny Phantom.
Yes.
Yep. This night in particular saw whatever it was scratching particularly hard at my skull. Whenever I stumbled onto the cusp of knowing what it was, I'd be thrown into the depths of a fit of uneasiness that tore me away from an atmosphere of sawdust and sweat into one composed of cordite and screaming that is very wordy and does not need to be as such.
So,
I
cordite.
like it.
Cordite, this is a Steven Universe story? Is cordite one of the...
Is Rebecca Sugar writing this?
Can cordite just be like when I say brown, I mean like brown like the color of like particle board? just like a particle board ass thin girl with a
Man,
Texas
check out that
hat.
particle board ass thin girl over there.
Particle board ass thin girl. Fuck the thing Slimebeast said to draw. Draw a particle ass board fat ass girl with a gem on her head. She's made of particle board and she's got big old honkers and a flannel shirt and Daisy Dukes and a cowboy hat.
Color Cordite Chan. The fact that the place was near dead that night didn't help me any, and I spent most of the evening pacing up and down the bar between bouts of chills that ate through the humidity that smothered everything else. I knew that the government shrinks were rounding up all of the disturbed veterans on their return home, but the last place I wanted to be was in the presence of a doctor. That's a nice detail. I don't know just how true that was, because historically speaking, government doesn't really take care of veterans that well.
Well, it doesn't say they're going to take care of them.
Well, you know what I mean, even paying attention to them.
Well, at that time, there were at least mental institutions for them to go to. I think it was like the Reagan era that, like, it's like, okay, now you get kicked out onto the streets, have fun with your crack.
And by the way, the institutions they were going to were throw everybody naked in the same room and just leave them there. Institutions.
Yeah.
Good luck, guys.
Well, if that's an institution, I don't know that I don't want to be thrown in there.
God damn it. So yeah, what I like the idea though of a bunch of doctors on horseback wrangling veterans on the street, like with lassos.
There goes another one. Look at him. He's still wearing his, what is it, skivvies or something? I forget.
Dr. Cletus, we got another one over here. All right, I'll get him. Dun, 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 dun. All right. I knew that I'd seen enough medical paraphernalia to last me a lifetime, and a few more besides. I was running out of options, though. I knew that much. The hours ticked wearily on, and I became more and more resolved to pay the local veterans office a visit once the sun decided to crawl back into the sky. By about midnight, what little patronage the place had managed to lure in from the streets had bled back out into the city. This is like, noir writing, but without the noir overtone. You know, where somebody's trying to be noir. So it's like, I don't know what you would call that.
Yeah, so I mean, like, not cliche.
Yeah, it's not like, you know...
Not tropey.
Then she walked into my life, legs up to yaya, you know, that type of thing. Sailors and Marines on shore leave regularly stumbled in and out as a consequence of the place sitting on the warpath towards the clubs and back streets of Chinatown. Kitty, Please.
I was born in Chinatown, yay.
No, don't go to... Well, occasionally, a regular or two would materialize at the bar, sometimes in conjunction with some floozy procured from any number of the other holes that dotted the neighborhood. Hey, pick up your hole that dots the neighborhood from one of the holes that dot the neighborhood. As it was, midnight saw both groups noticeably absent. Okay, so nobody's in the bar, I think, is what we're saying here.
Again, yeah, very, very wordy to communicate something that doesn't necessarily need to be elaborated on.
Yeah.
Well,
I like how on the sidebar, one of the recommended popular stories is Who Was Phone next to this.
Yeah.
You
Well,
like this? Try Who Was Phone.
It's going to be fun if this ends up being a troll pasta.
Yeah.
But I think that what we're dealing with isn't necessarily meant to be down to earth. I think there is supposed to be this sort of craftsmanship to the words to not make them as relatable. I'm perfectly fine with that as long as it takes that consistent choice and goes with it, and stylistically the theming of the story or like the plot of the story lines up with that, which so far it does, I think.
I just hope it's not going to be the thing where it's like, you know, I was alone in the bar with nobody else there, not a soul around. A guy came into the bar and later I found out he was dead already. You know, like, you're like, oh, okay. I mean, it's a good story and everything, but, you know, that'll be a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, I think that so far what we're dealing with, though, has been consistent, and that's what we often find annoying about wordiness, is like you start writing a story, do 3 paragraphs of wordiness, and then it starts to fall away, and then they remember at the end, oh yeah, it was supposed to be wordy.
Like that forgotten Shakespeare work where it's like, forsooth, I went unto the people and said, oh, fucking get out of here, you dumb people, and then I went to sleep. Just sort of loses all his Shakespeareanness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Stay tuned for Slimebeast Shakespearean Creepypasta at the end of the episode.
And forsooth, I walked to Lisbon. Where did Shakespeare...
Lisbon. Lisbon.
I walked across the channel as it was but a trifle.
Fair Veronans, lend me your ears. Everybody just turns and he says, never mind, I don't feel like giving a speech, fuck it. Y'all know what it be. Look at these 2 kids, Romeo, Juliet, they're fucking. Look at them.
Whatever.
They're hanging and banging, getting ripped and touching tips. Isn't it time that we had a same-sex Romeo and Juliet?
Which way?
Rent?
Yeah. Listen, they could just be non-binary.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Non-binary Romeo and Juliet.
Coming to CW.
Asexual Romeo and Juliet. Hey, how you doing? That's it.
Our families don't want us to date, and we don't want to date, so I guess we won't. Bye.
Yeah.
Oh no, we're dead.
Everyone's much happier, eh? Wait, why are they dead? Wait.
Non-binary. Asexual, non-binary Romeo and Juliet. Yes, perfect, Brandon. This is the thing you need to write now. They had been around earlier on, of course, but the ebb and flow of the night had been replaced them with a single patron, amongst wrestling with whatever monkey had set up residence on the back, on my back, and serving the regulars. I had noticed him gravitate closer and closer to the bar through the evening. He's just slowly pulling in. He's just tiptoeing. It's like, bud, you can come over here and order a drink.
Yeah. He's like one of those cats where every time he looks, he's a little bit closer frozen. Like,
yeah.
Looks away, turns back, the guy's closer. Whoop.
Mm-hmm. It's that gif, yeah. With the place empty, it was plain to see that he had finally completed his journey and sat atop a stool by the far end of the tabletop. He laid out his 40K maquettes. Though I was tired, I knew that any sleep I could wrap my hands around would promptly escape my grasp and leave me sat bolt right up as per so many nights before. So instead of throwing the guy out and shutting the place up, I sidled over to him and asked for his order.
I'll take a brandy, straight up, if you please.
Okay, but read the story. Yeah.
I have beer. I don't have brandy. It's been way too long. He spoke with something of a familiar tone, but it was one that I couldn't place for the life of me. Maybe it was just one of those voices that everyone just knows. Patriarchal in a way. In the blood.
Or it's somebody you were in the war with who died, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. Like a grandfather, perhaps. A voice that says, relax, trust me, regardless of the words Of what words literate? I gave him a nod and fumbled. With
Tumbled to the floor. I spasmed and screamed.
I did the goofy holler and slipped. I gave him a nod and fumbled with a bottle of the cheap stuff that riddled the racks up on the back wall.
Once I turned back, I noticed he was closer. No, I noticed that he had changed his seat so as to be at the center of the bar. He had a look about him that belied a certain something. I don't know. Sadness, maybe. No. Instant retraction. Melancholy would be a better ringer for it. Had to make sure not to misread that. But that still doesn't do it justice. Listen, when I saw that, my mind went, did you write? Oh no, ringer, okay.
If you hadn't brought it up,
what are you...
I would never have made that mistake.
We would have never... You just outed yourself as a racist. It's fine.
My God.
Okay, anybody who has this open, look at that word.
The word ringer?
Ringer?
I'm sorry. Maybe it does look like a different word, and my dyslexia is just auto-correcting it.
Maybe.
I don't know how this works.
It's one of those things where I got to the word melancholy, and I had it in my peripheral, and I was like, wait a minute. Oh, no, okay. Would be a better ringer for it, but that still doesn't do it justice. Whatever it was.
We need justice for ringers.
Damn it. What do I say to that? If I shout out no, meaning don't say that, it sounds like I'm saying no.
Just keep reading.
Whatever it was, it gnawed at me enough to ensure I took extra care in sitting down his drink. For a moment, I didn't think he had noticed, but then he looked me square in the face and gave me a nod.
I'd like to point out that center is spelled the European way.
Yeah.
Mm.
Maybe they picked it up overseas.
European on the bar.
That's not the only thing they picked up overseas.
Mm-hmm. Multiple C's.
An appreciation for...
Socialism?
Sure, why not? Much obliged, friend. Again, his voice seemed to have something of an ethereal quality to it, almost as if he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
It did not say that last part. It almost... I just had to clarify. It almost echoed, despite the fact that this place was about as small as a coffin. A coffin you would put a dead person in.
Mm-hmm.
I returned the nod and set myself against the wall, my arms weak, crossed over my chest in expectancy of a conversation that I wasn't sure I wanted.
I stood there, stiff, arms crossed on my chest in the coffin room. Dead, 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 dead. Get it? Dead.
The man took a few shallow sips of his spirits before setting the glass down on the bar, followed by hefting a satchel up next to it. Okay. He just takes a sip and he's like, so anyway, here's my dynamite.
You ever see so much dynamite? Look at that shit. What's up with that?
My psychologist says I shouldn't bring this much dynamite to a bar.
My psychologist says, don't worry, there's no ghost with dynamite at your bar. And then ghost with dynamite at my bar, and then there's a picture of this guy. Like this, meme tweets and shit. Zoomers know.
Dynamite ghost at bar isn't real. They can't hurt you.
Yeah, exactly.
He couldn't have been more than 20, and yet his face had the kind of haggard look to it that only age ought to punish a person with. It was the same one I had myself, as did almost everyone else I knew once they made it back from France or Japan or Italy or Somalia or Azerbaijan or Alaska.
Latvia.
Maybe Italy is where he picked up his affinity for socialism. He's just a big Mussolini guy.
Mm-hmm.
Big Mussolini guy sounds like a Power Rangers ripoff. I don't know. Big Mussolini guys.
He just gets into a conversation with this guy, and he just points at himself, waving his thumbs at himself. It's like, big Mussolini guy over here.
All right, so now it's my paragraph. He opened the satchel, and it was full of prehistoric eggs. Just got back from Jurassic Park, he said. Oh, fuck.
If they came back at all, his hands disappeared into the battered leather bag that he had laid on the bar top, and yet he kept his eyes fixed on me for the duration of their absence. They had a deep-set hazel nature that spoke of the same story the premature lines of his face did. Needless to say, they did nothing to put me at ease. After this standoff persisted for what felt like an entire night and several more, he withdrew a wallet from the satchel and eased it onto the bar with a dry snap.
Okay. And this is a quote from the dude. It appears that I don't have enough to cover the drink. Perhaps I can offer you an ear instead. He pulled an ear out of the wallet. No. He had come from Vietnam. The warmth
Just then I realized that his wallet was made out of ears.
God damn it. The satchel was made out of ears as well. Studying him closely, all of his clothes were made out of ears.
He opened his satchel and offered me a bunch of recycled condoms from Vietnam.
He had earrings on that were made of ears hanging from his ears. What? Double. Draw someone wearing earrings that are made of human ears and tweet it at, I don't know. What's a jewelry maker?
K Jewelers.
K Jewelers. Tweet it to K Jewelers and say, I have a design for your next line of earrings. I don't know.
Every kiss begins with earrings.
Yeah.
Made of ears.
Every ear begins with E! The warmth of his previous tone had become submerged beneath something uncertain that was becoming rapidly goddamned terrifying. All intonation had drained out of his voice so that I became reminded of the steady scratching of a record left to spin long after concluding.
Wait, all intonation, so he just spoke in a flat matter. Yeah. It appears I don't have enough to cover the drink. Perhaps I can offer you an ear instead. That's what that means.
Some of you may have heard that the Disney Corporation is responsible for... two narrator jokes. Fuck yeah.
Dude, that's been like 5. We've made like 5 fucking narrator jokes this episode.
Alright, sleep and profit margins be damned. I thought I wanted him gone. And yet there was something so bizarre about him that I couldn't let him simply slip out into the wilds of the darkness outside, to never be seen again.
The darkness imprisoning him outside.
Mm-hmm.
It's all in the house. But what do you mean about... Before I could even finish, he interrupted with the same monotone as before. An ear, my friend, someone you can confide in. You were in the war, yes?
No, hold on. I think I know how he's supposed to sound. An ear, my friend, someone you can confide in. You were in the war, yes?
The Great Ball War. The Great Ball War was just a war between Ball and everybody else.
So Ball's returned from World War II, which we are establishing now. Yes, Ball was in World War II, and he's at a bar. Okay. I'm suddenly more interested in this story.
You know, a lot of history teachers teach it wrong. See, World War II, submachine guns were invented, and that became the dominant form of warfare. But in World War I, it was actually just one big dodgeball fight.
Yeah.
That's what trench warfare is. It's charging fucking balls with, trenches.
But the dodgeballs were grenades. I nodded to the affirmation. I have an eye for those things, you see. I was serving myself. Perhaps you'd like to hear about myself before you start with your own tale? Thankfully, by this point, the monotone had given way to a more agreeable voice of before. Again, all I could do was nod my head. He replaced the wallet back to the confines of the satchel from which it had appeared and finished off what liquor remained in the glass.
Interesting. So he took out his wallet but didn't pay? Just like all those people who are like making the gesture when they're like dining with a friend or something, like, I'll reach for my wallet, but before I get it, he'll pay.
Right. I was a chaplain enlisted, what seems like a lifetime ago. I ministered to the men from Sicily. I
ministered for the men from Sicily.
I administered men who had syphilis.
What would you do? Okay, what would you do, Abysmii? You're in a bar, and a guy who's obviously a ghost comes in. It's late at night. Nobody's there. There's just this one mysterious-looking guy, coal black eyes, pale skin, looks dead, wearing war fatigues, bloodstained. Yeah, cold sores. He looks just like somebody who's risen from the dead in the middle of war on a battlefield, left bloody and broken. He sits down at the bar mysteriously. You go over and go, what would you like to drink? And he says, I'm seriously thirsty, and I would like something very nice to drink. Do you have a Bloody Mary? What would you do?
I would hit him over the head with a bar stool.
And he goes, oh dear me, my skull!
My skull!
You savage, you've struck my skull!
I would hit him with the bar stool and run out.
What kind of bar do you think this is? There ain't no gay ghost lounge in here.
Officer, that my assailant is escaping.
This is a no-fop shop, sir.
No fop shop. T-shirt. Abysmii, folded arms, wearing a shopkeeper's outfit. Just says no fop shop in big letters.
Oh, please don't do that. I ministered to the men from Sicily to Iwo Jima. It was difficult work to be sure, but then any work worth doing always is. And surely there is no task greater than that which is appointed by God. He shuffled around a little after he had finished. Silence drifted from wall to wall for a few seconds until I felt compelled to break it with my own contribution, if only to expedite the lone drinker's departure. Something about his overall demeanor, combined with the newly learned fact that he was a preacher, to ruin any mystique he had in favor of beginning... motherfucker. Hold on. Something about his overall demeanor, combined with the newly learned fact that he was a preacher, to ruin any mystique he had in favor of beginning to irritate me. I think that something's missing in that sentence.
It's a proper sentence. It's just worded poorly. It's his demeanor, combined with that fact, ruined it.
Yeah, I get it the second time you said it, but like now, it is a run-on sentence.
It's sort
Something
of like
about his...
it's sort of like water and salt combine to make salt water. You know, like that type of thing.
Something about his overall demeanor, combined with the newly learned fact that he was a preacher,
it combined with that to do it.
Okay, yeah, that is very clunky.
Woof.
Welcome to English, gang.
Okay.
Welcome to English, gang. Here we speak English. Wait, you're just racist? Oh, fuck, no. Wait.
Shit.
Oh, now that you mention it. Oh, fuck. I was a medic myself. Only ever saw action in France, thankfully. What's with the drinking, then? I thought you types weren't allowed to do that.
No. Who thinks that? That
preachers?
Yeah, like...
Oh, this wine
Even the most, even Catholics, like, they literally bless wine to drink at Mass. Fucking every priest drinks.
Does he think he's an imam or something? Or?
I don't know, it's weird.
He shifted again on his seat and set his eyes into a dark stare that trailed off into nowhere. I said I was a man of God, friend. The war is over now. I have other duties to attend to. I only believed in God during the war when I saw the atrocities.
It was a job, okay? Whatever. Like...
I like the idea that he's like looking around at all the dead people and all the lost limbs and he's like, God's awesome, but then he comes back to peacetime and he's like, you know what, I think I'm an atheist. This just is boring and sucks. I have other duties to attend to. Though they might still be under his purview, they don't require as much regulation. A chuckle punctuated his clarification, a sound that I'd rather not hear ever again. Do go on about your own time in the service, though. So he has another job under God. Is he deaf?
Sure.
I don't know.
I'm guessing our protag did something he's trying to bury in his subconscious. That's why he's being kept up at night.
Possibly. I think that would be a better situation than this guy is just dead from the war and it's his old buddy, which is becoming less likely.
Yeah.
I hadn't had the opportunity to talk much about it till then. I figured that if I kept quiet about it, then the insomnia would stop. Maybe I'd be able to forget. Maybe I just didn't talk about it because there was nobody to talk to. For whatever reason, I decided to comply with his request. I did a year or so in the service of medical school, then dropped out to sign up.
Yeah. It's close. It was close.
It works. It's just everyone enlist in medical school.
I did just throw enlist in there, didn't I? Amazing. Could have probably gone in as a doctor rather than as an orderly, but I wanted in as soon as I could. My folks weren't happy about it, still aren't. I know I did good, though. Saved a lot of lives. I'm not sure how much of that I believe at... end quote. I'm not sure how much of that I believed at the time, but it seemed to interest the man of God. The blank expression that he had worn for the entirety of the conversation shifted to one approaching brief concern.
Huh. So this is ripping me off again.
How so?
A man of God, abandoned by God, abandoned by God. You see?
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Dude, do we have to name the episode that now? Abandoned by God?
No.
Go ahead, Abysmii. Stop finding things funny.
No, I won't. And your greatest failure? Sorry? We all have them. Times when we think we should have done better. And yours is? I scratched at the back of my neck in expectation of catching onto the palpable sense of dread that was building there, but felt only the clammy flesh to which I had become accustomed. Clutch your clammy flesh. There was one patient we couldn't save, a kid, probably about the same age as me at the time, He'd taken some gunshot wounds from a German sniper nest near a road a few miles away from Normandy. The self-proclaimed retired chaplain listened intently before I took a few moments to compose myself.
Okay, so a kid probably about the same age as me at the time, and how old is the guy that came in? 20s with a weathered
So he's
face?
coming back for revenge.
Oh, I don't know about that. Might be to forgive him and ease his troubles and demons.
Maybe.
I'm not saying we never lost guys before then, or hell, afterwards either. In fact, I was losing guys all the time. I was like, I don't remember where I put that patient. You check in that tent over there, and I got no idea then. But this one could have gone differently. If we had the right tools, we could have gotten to the bullets and patched him up. Instead, all I had was a spork and a melon baller. He took 3 rounds to the leg. Not typically a fatal wound if you can get the right medical attention. But I guess we just weren't good enough. The wail of Siren Head, the wail of a siren etching through the night, filled the void that followed. I didn't have anything else to say to the priest, and it appeared that he didn't have anything else for me either. Or anything for me either. Eventually I had to speak up just to placate my own sanity.
What about you, Padre? What's your greatest failure?
I died after getting shot in the leg. Big epic fail.
Epic fail?
It wasn't really poggers of me to get shot in the leg.
It wasn't poggers.
I'm just imagining, like, a realistic, like, journalist photo of a child soldier getting shot in the leg, and then a YouTuber reaction face, just mouth agape, red circle around the child dying, just be like, epic fail.
I would take it one step further, just have a legit, like, New York Times headline, child soldiers in Africa, ? Epic fail.
You joke, but we're not far off.
We're really not. That's the future of journalism.
It will be. It will be.
A wry smile stretched out across his face before he nuggeted his glass over to me.
God damn it. He took out a tiny nugget gun and shot nuggets at it until it slid over to me.
Oh, the war was Worms Armageddon. Okay, that makes sense.
He nudged his glass over to me. I regret the fact that I couldn't minister to more soldiers before the war ended.
Because
you see, I really just wanted the war to continue on.
So I could talk to people about God, but now I can't be a man of God anymore because my job's done. It sucks.
He likes to go up to people who are suffering and dying. He would just walk up with like the smile on his face and be like, God did this. He would
God
point at them. God doesn't love you.
It's all part of the plan. The plan is you're getting punished for all the bad things you've done.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a car accident on the side, he just drives up, rolls down his window, God did that, and speeds off.
Yeah.
Oh, God. You see, a majority of my duties were related to giving the dying their last rites. Only rarely was I able to assist those who weren't on the cusp of death. Many men made it through the war alive, only to be returned home with demons like yours. I wish I had more time to exorcise them before their return.
Demons like yours? Good band name? Okay, good.
Mm-hmm. End quote. His pointed remark aimed squarely at the premise of the story. What's that? The script? He said.
Fuck.
His pointed remark aimed squarely at me, hit too close to home, and I realized that enough was enough. I took his glass and returned it beneath the bar before leaning on the counter.
Gonna clean that glass first? Okay.
The counter broke. By the way, I'm a fat man.
The counter broke. It was very embarrassing.
By the way, the counter broke. I'm an SCP that has a density that is unimaginable.
I know I don't want to harp on it, but I want to see an SCP whose density is imaginable.
God damn it, fuck you.
I'm sorry, but I want to see it.
Well, I'm sure they're getting along just fine without you, Padre. If you don't mind, I'd like to close up now. Tapping on my watch seemed to help the situation sink in with him, and he responded by standing up and apparently readying himself to leave. But before he did, he plunged one of his hands back into his satchel that clung to his wrist. Shortly thereafter, he withdrew the same hand and dropped a handful of items that clattered onto the bar.
Alright, are these going to be the bullets from his leg? It appears that I have enough to cover my tab after all. People often forget that it is the duty of a chaplain to pray for both the souls of the departed and the living alike.
No one forgets that.
Yeah.
No.
People often forget chaplains are religious.
People often forget that chaplains aren't allowed to drink.
Hey,
where does it say that in the Bible? Listen.
Chaplains drive by the cemeteries all the time and just say, "I'll pray for you," and then they speed off.
Chaplains often walk through the graveyard spray painting "God did this" on every tombstone.
That's a pretty good creepypasta.
Can you imagine a fucking funeral? Dearly beloved, we're gathered here today. God did this.
We got an active situation here. The graveyard's full of priests again. It's a rogue gang of priests.
I do love just you're giving a funeral service. We're gathered here today to remember the life of Joe Hibbenbopper, and he passed away from us. This is God's fault. Fuck you, God.
Remember,
and then everyone crying.
Be angry at God. He did it.
all of the crying people that are grieving are just yelling out at the top of their love. They just interject, "Fuck you, God! Fuck you!"
Now we're gonna have a 21-finger salute. Everybody flips off the sky.
That's like the idea. They all stop crying and just go, "Oh, that's right. I can just blame God. Oh, yeah. That feels better."
They all just take out guns and start shooting at the sky and then attempt to kill God.
Every time
what a 21-gun salute is.
Yeah.
Every time we shoot at God to try to get revenge on him, he just shoots back and kills some of us. Wait, no, it's gravity. Well,
sure, whatever.
Gravity is okay.
Gravity is God's anger against you. He's constantly keeping you down.
Gravity is God saying, "No, you." With that, he turned and strode out into the balmy night. I breathed a sigh of relief and leaned with all of my weight onto the bar for fear of collapsing. The bar collapsed. Eventually, I lifted...
I broke both bars that night.
Yeah.
my imaginable, but still immense density broke the table.
This place had an L-shaped bar, now it's more of an I? What happened?
It's just Ernest becomes a bartender.
God damn it. Eventually, what if you made a movie where it's completely normal, everything is serious, it's a drama, nothing is really off about it, but every time somebody leans on something, it breaks. That's the only touch.
That would be such a good...
That'd be great.
God damn it, Stuart, we have to find this killer before it... Damn it! My fucking chair.
There's just a bunch of details in the background of just there's a TV going in the background and it's really low and it's just table recall. It's just for a law firm, just class action lawsuit against table manufacturers.
And after the commercial ends, they go back to the breaking news of the presidential speech where he walks up to the podium, leans on it, and falls off the stage.
Just all of these background details. Just a universe where no table is stable.
How about there's a really meaningful scene, there's two guys sitting there. Guy's like, "Jim, I just ain't been right since Judith died. It's been weighing on me." Another one's like, "Well, Bob, you can always lean on me." And then smash cut to a grave where Bob's being buried. Or Jim, whatever.
So sorry, Jim. But God did this, right?
He could also be frail and have plot reasons to also die.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where you have to figure it out for yourself.
Right.
Of wait a second, did he actually physically do that? And
this is like rubber.
Yeah.
With that, he turned and strode out into the balmy night. I breathed a sigh of relief and leaned with all of my weight onto the bar for fear of collapsing. Eventually, I lifted my head back up and went over to where the handful had dropped. An assortment of coins, okay, not bullets, lay on the surface, adding up to exactly the cost of the brandy that night's final patron had ordered, despite the fact I never told him how much he owed. Bum bum bum. And amongst the familiar glint of silver coins shone a ruddy brass glow that I hadn't seen since coming back home. The faint glow emanated from 3 discharged bullet casings.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So...
Is this a horror story?
Well, wait a minute. They're the bullet casings, they're not the bullets. So, it's the person who shot?
Oh.
oh my God, I just realized it. So the guy who shows up is God, and he did that.
Oh, yeah, of course. Instead of Padre, it's Godre.
Gotcha. So a sniper killed a kid by shooting him 3 times. Number one, you're a terrible sniper if you just do like 3 random pot shots in a leg and you keep the bullet casings.
Well, no, but there's every possibility that you were shooting someone in the leg in hopes that someone else would come out and help that person so you could then shoot them as well.
True. 1 shot in the leg will do that. Did he wait for like 5 minutes and go, better shoot him in the leg again so maybe someone will come out?
Yes.
That's just a comedy of errors right there. Help! I've been shot in the leg. 5 minutes later. Damn it! The same leg!
No, that's the strategy. Just amp up the tension. All right, we really got to help this guy. I just want to also put this out there. Factually, in this schema that we're working with, all snipers are agents of God.
That's true. All snipers are God. ASAC? ASAC. I mean, not too much difference. You look from afar, and boom, someone's just dead with no idea what happened or why.
Yeah, God.
Yeah.
Constantly living in fear. Can't see them. Yeah.
The sniper is the most godly of the killers.
Sniperness is next to godliness.
Absolutely. Pissing and shitting yourself. Anyway, I think that this was a pretty decent story. I enjoyed it. I think that there were good things about it. I think that we saw a general idea of what the twist was. The person at the bar has to be something supernatural. But the way we were reading it kind of bogged it down somewhat. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of a pass on that. But still, we saw it coming. We totally did. Overall, though, it was a fun ride. It was a very ghost story, campfire kind of story.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm just wondering let us know in the comments below if you picked up on some other theme that we didn't get about who this guy was. Some clues earlier on that we missed, or whatever. Post, just say fuck you in the chat, in the comments, that's it.
Fuck you, God.
Yeah, fuck you, God.
Fuck you, God. F's in the chat. Fuck you, God, and let us know.
F's in the chat for Princess Diana, yeah.
F's in the chat for Princess Diana. And also let us know what your thoughts are on Has Creepypasta Always Been Bad?
Has Creepypasta Always Been bogus?
This has been the Fear Fiction Podcast. Your hosts are Abysmii, Dead Palette, and Slimebeast. Music by Abysmii. Art by C.F. Comer. Voiceover by Atticus Jackson. Edited by Elias the Intern. Subscribe to Fearfic on YouTube to stay up to date on new episodes.
Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in to PBS, the Public Broadcasting System. Up next is one of our newest shows in which theater performances from across the globe are filmed on camera for your enjoyment. This is Theater Shooting. Gather round. Right. Tonight we're showing one of Shakespeare's lesser-known plays. In fact, this is one of his final works. Some might say that Sir William Shakespeare had lost his touch by the time this was written, and it's widely believed he simply gave up after a few minutes, but we'll let you, the audience, be the judge of that. Now, never before has this play been performed on photographical Mechanicamera. This particular tale is titled Much Pride About a Tempest. Please sit down, shut up, and listen. Forsooth I say unto the people of fair Verona, thou art a coxswain. Forthwith unto thyself be thine known this simple idiom. Where shalt thou walk unto thine corpulent corpuscle, thou art not unto thyself entirely mustachioed, lest thy be thine fishwife. So I say unto thee, fair Veronans, thou art Veronans of Verona, which is fair. And fair to say unto thyself, thou art be a coxswain. And There's trouble coming. Big old storm in the sky. Yes, and it's going to, there's going to be a death. There's a duke, somebody important. Ooh, a duke or a duchess, or maybe even the king. It's going to fucking croak. Yeah, it's going to be bad. And there's treachery afoot. Oh, fair Veronans, look out. When you're in Verona walking around being fair and all that, there's betrayal. Someone's going to betray your trust. Stab you. Maybe some poison or something in your ear, or a knife in your ear, or get shot in the ear, like a sword jammed in your ear, like right through. Maybe two people, maybe two dukes, or a duke and a duchess, perhaps, standing side by side, run through the ears with a single sword, both of them, due to treachery. Treachery, some relative of theirs, like their brother, or their son, or their mother, or their lover, doing that stuff, treacherying up it, and making everything bad. There's a big storm in the sky over Verona, fair Veronans. Romeo and Juliet, remember them? You remember them? Whoa, they're dead by now, by this play. This isn't a play, it's real life. This is actually happening. It's not fake. It's all real. I'm a real guy in Verona in the past. And Julius Caesar, remember that guy? Whoa, he got betrayed. Stabbed a bunch of times in the back, and et tu, Brute, remember that one? I wrote that one. Wait, no, I'm a character in Verona. I didn't write that. What is my name? I'm a preacher, maybe? A town crier of some sort? I was speaking to all of Verona, so I must have a reason for that. Maybe I'm the Duke. I'm the Duke who's going to get betrayed. A little spoiler there. We call it foreshadowing. You see, when there's a spoiler in the story, but it's kind of like hidden away, like subtle, that's foreshadowing. Yes. So maybe, look, here comes my brother. I wonder why he has that bottle of ear poison and a sword and a knife and a gun. And, he has a trained badger, an attack badger. That's a new one. You haven't seen that in my stories before, in William Shakespeare's stories, of which I am in one of those stories right now, but this is all real and actually happening. Let's see what my brother has to say. Hey, bro. He's brother the Duke right here. I guess you're a Duke too if you're my brother. I don't know. How does that work? I should know that. I'm Shakespeare. No. And with that, the end of Act 1. Stay tuned for Act 2, and I guess that was a pretty short act. This play is very short, actually. We're going to be done with this in about 15 minutes, so, if you have any plans after this, don't worry. You'll make them in record time. I guess he really did give up, didn't he?
So I'm a basic bitch normie, also a virgin. And the thing I watch most consistently on YouTube these days is just Let's Plays, because of all stated reasons above. Mm-hmm. And the one that I put on in the background probably most frequently for fun is Oni Plays through Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, which is a lot of hours, but it's in basically 3 parts. And if you ever want to re-experience Kingdom Hearts without having to play through it, and just have fun laughing at it, but also appreciating it for its nonsense, go check it out on YouTube. It's really funny.
And I think we've said this before in the past, but most of the jokes Abysmii and I make secretly come from Oni Plays. Dead Palin has no idea and he thinks we're funny.
No, yeah.
I'm Fat Albert. I wonder why I'm being talked about.
Well, we didn't steal Fat Albert jokes, but we definitely talk about them because they talk about them, and just you never would have thought to reincorporate Fat Albert.
It brings it back to mind, and you're like, oh yeah,
exactly,
oh, yeah.
Exactly.
The discussion section of this episode was obviously way longer than normal and way more serious than our normal cold opens, so if you enjoyed this change of pace, please let us know in the comments below. Either comment your feelings on this format or on the topic of creepypasta's quality and hindsight. If listeners enjoy this kind of episode themed around a more serious critique, we'll take a note to do more episodes like this on occasion, but the normal style of episode isn't going anywhere, so don't worry about that.
Was
So Scott
Creepypasta...
Cawthon, so again.
Oh my god, you son of a bitch. We'll put that at the end of the episode, at the very end. We'll just cut that out and put that at the very